Hello, and thank you for taking the time to review the Business Retention and Expansion BR&E database from the University of Minnesota Extension Center for Community Vitality. My name is Nick, and I'm a graduate student research assistant with the BR&E program. This video will give you a chance to see the table filters in action and information on how to interpret your results. These are described in detail in the user's guide, and for that reason, this video will focus only on applying searches. I'm going to go ahead and navigate to the Factors worksheet. Notice that cells A1 and A2 contain information regarding the page. In this case, we know that we're looking at the average community ratings from the BR&E survey instrument question that asks respondents to rate their community as a place to do business. Cell A2 tells us that there's a difference between Likert scales used, and bold text says that there was a 4-point scale used. The documentation outlines the methodology and differences between a 4 and 5-point Likert scale. Notice that the dark blue row 4, is the first row of the table and lists column names. Going from left to right, we'll see date, community, 4-point Likert scale, unemployment information, 7-county metro status, BR&E type, population quintile, and sample size. These columns are included on all question worksheets. Interpretation assistance can be found in the included comments by hovering your cursor over a cell. For example, I'll hover my cursor over cell C4, 4-point scale, and a comment appears. Indicates if the community survey used a 4 or 5-point scale. You can experiment and understand the other comments by downloading and using this database. I now navigate past the first several columns. These provide information about the communities at designated time periods and were previously discussed. Column R in cell R4 shows B, avail unskilled labor, which signifies that this subsection of the factors question is asking respondents to rate the availability of unskilled labor in their community. Blank cells mean that the questions were not asked to a specific community. Looking here in cell R5, I can see that Richmond had an average response of 3.17 on a 4-point scale, and Monaga had an average response of a 2.97 on a 5-point scale. The next column indicates the sample size of firms who answered this question, followed by a column that says B, weighted average. This represents the weighted average based on firm size of all communities who have answered either the 4-point scale question or the 5-point scale question. So in this case, 3.06 is the weighted average of a 4-point scale, and 3.21 is the weighted average of a 5-point scale. Next is the filtered weighted average. This will change depending on how you search. Therefore, it will only show the weighted average of those communities that are visible. However, since we currently have all communities visible, these are identical. Now let's go over to date and filter our results based on year. We're going to go ahead and choose greater than or equal to 2005. So we will only be looking at those communities that have completed a BR&E since 2005. Notice that quite a bit of data has disappeared. Our range is only from Alexandria to Richmond. Our weighted average for the 4-point scale hasn't changed because we've only been using the 4-point scale since 2010. However, the filtered weighted average remains identical. However, for the 5-point scale, we can see here in cell V13 that the weighted average is still 3.21, so this shows through all time the weighted average. But the filtered weighted average is 3.07, showing only those communities that have completed their BR&E program since 2005 have a weighted average of 3.07. You can apply as many or as few filters as you want, and the interpretation will be the same across the board. The filtered weighted average will change depending on your search results. We'll go ahead and clear the filter to bring back all data. And you can see that everything returns to as it was. Going back to the index, we can now do this on any other question. Thanks for taking the time to review this material about using the filters and interpreting results. These videos complement the written documentation, and more specific questions can be answered by consulting that. If, after reviewing the documentation and videos, you still have questions, please feel free to contact the BR&E Program Director listed on the University of Minnesota Extension's website.